This is going to be my first attempt at doing a spoiler review. This is going to be for the upcoming set for Commander. This is just going to be the cards that have been spoiled thus far up till October 31st, and I'm going to go through each color one by one, try to play catch up, and then try to put one out every day with what's out there. And I do want to have everybody keep a couple things in mind. I am by no means a professional Magic player. I enjoy Commander. It's my primary format. I do dabble in Pauper a little bit, but mostly Commander. I'm going to be giving some of my thoughts about, is a card good for my opinion, possibly what decks you might want to see it in. I'm obviously going to miss some things. But I at least want to go over, what my thoughts are and share them with you, try to give kind of a positive outlook and maybe give some suggestions for creative ways that you may not have thought about using the cards. But thus far, we're just going to start with white today and then work through Wubug order. Starting with Ancestral Blade. Now, do want to keep in mind, I haven't really looked at many of these. I might have seen them in somebody else's spoiler, but I haven't really gone and done to that. So these are just going to be my initial thoughts. It is a 1 white artifact equipment. When Ancestral Blade enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, then attach Ancestral Blade to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 with equip cost of 1. This does kind of remind me a lot of the old germ token ones from way back in the day in Mirrodin, Besieged and whatnot. Maybe not quite as powerful in that, but the fact that it does at least create a 1/1, you end up getting a 2-drop for 2, which isn't too bad. I would definitely want to put this in things that are going to be in token strategies, Tesa as an example. You might also want to look at something like this for SRAM, because it does give that creature +1/+1, and after the 1/1 creature dies that it's attached to, which inevitably will happen, at least you'll have another piece of equipment to attach to SRAM. At least that's my initial thoughts. Anointed Valor is 5 and a white for a 3/5 flyer. Whenever a creature attacks, you may pay 3. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. There are a lot of +1/+1 counter decks. I do think 6 is a little steep for ability like this. It's not too horrible. In the right deck, maybe like an all flyers based deck, or definitely something that runs anything with +1/+1 counters as its main basis, it's definitely going to help. Aside from that, I don't think it's really all that good. It's not really a great mana sink, and by the time that you're going to want this as a 6-drop, there's going to be so many better things. Archon of Coronation, 4 and double white for a 5/5 flyer. Creature type Archon. When Archon of Coronation enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. As long as you're the Monarch, damage doesn't cause you to lose life. Whew. A couple different ways to think about this. One, I am very mixed on Monarch as an ability. Outside of blue, I happen to like Monarch in blue specifically. That being said, it does prevent loss of life, which also I believe would going to be damage. Or in this case, damage causes you to lose life. So I think it does prevent people from taking the Monarch from you, if I understand the card correctly. So that makes it a little better. White is notoriously horrible for card draw. So again, in white decks, you're going to want something like this. The fact that it's a 5/5 flyer for 6, not a horrible rate, but it's just, I don't think it's as good as it looks on the initial glance. I could be wrong. I don't think I would play this card unless I really needed the card draw and I didn't have a better option. Ardent Intrepid Archeologist, 2 and a white, Core Scout, legendary creature. 2/2, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, you may attach any number of auras and equipment you control to target permanent or player. It also has Partner. I would probably put this, again, in a 99 with a SRAM deck, because it would allow you to maneuver things the way you want to, that are going to be most advantageous to you for combat. It also doesn't require those other equipment or, equipment specifically, to already be attached to another creature to attach to this. So it does make anything with an insane equip cost to be a little better. I could see this as a build around. I would also see this potentially with a red partner as being a thing. I believe there's going to be one we're going to cover later. It's the red kobold that's a 0/1 but has keyword soup. And I think that would probably be a good mix for that for a red-white aggro deck. Armored Skyhunter is 3 and a white. Creature Cat Knight flying 3/3. Whenever it attacks, look at the top 6 cards of your library. You may put an aura or equipment card from among them onto the battlefield. If an equipment is put onto the battlefield this way, you may attach it to a creature you control. Put the rest of these cards on the bottom of your library in random order. Again, SRAM, good idea. Orebo's probably the better position for this, or at least from my perspective. Any deck that is going to be heavy aura equipment based that's going to be in white is going to want this. 3/3 flyer for 4 in white is not a bad rate either. The additional thing of being able to attack with it is going to be good. If you have some way of giving it haste, it's even better. So I think it's a good card. I think it's going to see some play. I don't know if it's going to see competitive because I'm not really a CEDH player. I'm pretty much a casual guy. But I like this card a lot. I think it's going to see some play, and it's definitely a card I'm going to be looking to pick up at least a few copies of for different decks I have. Cage of Hands is 2 and a white. This is a reprint, if I recall correctly. It is an enchant creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. 1 and a white, return Cage of Hands to its owner's hand. I hate to keep going back to SRAM, but anything that allows you to recast an aura over and over and over again is just a card draw engine. And the fact that this is effectively pacifism plus, yeah, I like it, again, for that. Is it going to see play in other decks? Well, it's a pacifism, but you get the chance that, if they have a way to sacrifice a creature, you can at least bounce this back to your hand and then put it onto something else. So I think it's good for common. I don't know if it'll ever see play in Pauper. I think it's interesting, but it'll probably see some play. It's not a bad card per se, but unless it's in specific decks, I don't think it's all that great. Captain's Call, I know for a fact this is a reprint, or at least I'm 99% certain. There's also the 2 soldier version of this that's also going to be here in a little bit. Sorcerer, create 3/1 white soldier creature token. Sorry about that. And yeah, it's just 3 bodies for 4 mana. Token decks are going to want this. Convoke decks are probably going to want this. It's not bad. It's not great. It's 3 bodies for 4, and sometimes that's what you need. Again, token strategies are going to want this. Court of Grace. This 2 white enchantment. When Court of Grace enters the battlefield, you become the monarch. At the beginning of your upkeep, create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. If you're the monarch, create a 4/4 white angel token creature with flying instead. This is a nice payoff for monarch if you've got it. 4 mana for this kind of ability, I think, is a little steep. I think it probably would have been amazing at 3. But, I mean, if you can keep Monarch all the way around to your next turn, you're getting a 4/4 beater out of it. At worst, you're getting a 1/1. So it's not horrible. Again, token strategies are going to want this. Convoke strategies might want this. Enchantress decks, again, might want this. I think it's a novel idea. But I think it's a little high casting for what it does. That could just be me. Court Street Denizen, if I recall correctly, this is also a reprint. Couldn't tell you what set it's from, but my brain is leaning toward one of the Ravnica ones. It is a 2 white creature human soldier. Whenever another white creature enters a battlefield under your control, tap target creature an opponent controls. It's 2/2. Good way to get a blocker out of the way, I suppose. With specific infinite combos, create infinite white dudes, but at that point you're already probably winning regardless. If you have a way of generating white creature tokens on your opponent's steps, then it becomes slightly better, because then you can tap down their dudes before they swing at you, and at that point it's not bad. The right strategies, I can see where this would be useful. It's not a great card, but it's a good card. Doom Traveler, I would love to say it's an oldie but goodie, but to be frank, I've been playing since beta. It is definitely a card that needs notice because of how good it was and how good it still kind of is. It is a 1 white for a 1/1 creature human soldier that when it dies, you create a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying. Great in most aristocrat style builds, good at token decks, not bad in a lot of mono white aggro decks or red-white aggro decks either, because you're not really too worried about him dying because you're actually going to get something better when he does. So a lot of the times it just kind of gets through for a point here, a point there, and even when it doesn't, it's not, a bad situation. With Luminous, I think it's Broodmoth, it's a really super card in my opinion, but again, it's kind of situational. At that point, a lot of cards are a lot better with Luminous Broodmoth. First response is 3 and a white enchantment. At the beginning of each upkeep, if you lost life last turn, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. I kind of like this. Again, token builds are kind of interesting. There's a lot of ways to make yourself lose a point of life. Whether or not that's worth that 1 point of life gain is kind of questionable. It's not 1 point of life gain, sorry, a 1/1 white soldier creature token is a little questionable. I like this with any of the Soul Sisters. I think that's pretty solid. Or if you have anything that gains you life when a creature comes into play, more than makes up for it. There are definitely some builds that are going to like this. But it's a 1/1. On your upkeep, you create 1 dude for 4. I want to say that I like this, but I think it's just too slow and too little for its casting cost. And for the hoops that you would have to jump through just to get the 1/1 white soldier creature token. Inspiring Aura, 3 and a white sorcery, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. I like things that go with go white strategies. I don't typically play a lot of decks that do them. Again, token decks are going to like something like this, but I'm kind of on the fence for 4. I want something at 4 to do more than this. I mean, Glorious Anthem for 3 gives you a +1/+1 to each of your creatures, and it just stays out there. So if this was an instant, it would be amazing. As a sorcery, I'm just not a fan. Intangible Virtue, again, this is definitely a reprint. If I remember correctly, I want to say it's from either Innistrad or Return to Innistrad, or one of those blocks thereof. Creature tokens you control get +1/+1 and have vigilance. Referring to like the last card that was on this list. Again, this is a much better rate for the bonus you're getting. You kind of have to be in a token strategy to do that. Again, Teza decks will love something like this. Anything that just pumps out tokens that can have white in it is going to love something like this. The fact that they get vigilance on top of that is even better. This card was initially underrated when it first came out, and then it proved how nasty it really is, and I don't think that's going to be any different. If you aren't already playing this card in a token build, you really should be, and you should probably pick these up when they come out. Kellers Familiar, 1 white creature, legendary creature horse. When a commander you control attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on Kellers Familiar. It also has partner. I am so on the fence about this card too. I would never play it by itself. I would always give it some partner. I haven't really found the right partner. Again, the red kobold that I kind of discussed earlier would be my initial thought. Might be an interesting build with that. Because it's just going to keep getting bigger and getting nastier as you go. But any other commander that has a reliance on counters on it that has partner is going to be something you're going to want to consider for this. I just don't have initial thoughts about which ones, because I'll be frank, I don't really know all of the commanders that are out there that have partner just yet. And I imagine there's probably some partner out there that's going to make this just insanely busted. I just don't know which one. On its face value, though, I mean, if you can find another partner, again, that has something good, that making it bigger is going to make it better, there are worse choices. Kinsbale Courier is 2 and a white for 2/1. Kithkin Soldier. When Kinsbale Courier enters battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature. It also has Encore, 2 and a white. This is the first card we've run into in this spoiler that actually involves Encore. So I kind of want to touch base on what I think of the mechanic as a whole. Depending on the casting cost initially and the Encore cost, they can be obviously either good or bad, and that might be kind of easily approachable statement. The fact that you exile the card, you then get copies of it that swing at all of your opponents. You get either the ETB trigger or the sacrifice trigger or the death trigger of them. They're just going to decide whether or not this gets good or not. In a typical 4-player game, most of these are going to be on the side of good. Some of them are on the side of great. For a common, I particularly actually like this one. Because when you're going to do an encore to it, you're effectively getting 3 +1/+1 counters for 3 mana, because you can target the same creature 3 times, presuming you're in a 4-player game. And for 3 mana, that's a pretty good rate. Outrightly, at worst, this is a 3/2 for 3, which, there are worse stats out there. But it could also be 2/1 plus you make something that actually matters just slightly bigger, and make it that much better. Overall, not a bad card. Core Cartographer, I know for a fact that, again, this one is a reprint. I remember when this one came out. I can't tell you when. It's 3 and a white for a creature Core Scout. When Core Cartographer enters the battlefield, you may search your library for planes, put it on the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. It is mana ramp for white. I mean, that's always a thing. It's not the greatest thing, but it's a thing. The thing is, by the time you get to 4 in white, I'm not sure you really want more mana ramp necessarily. It really depends on the deck. Most of the time, if I'm in just mono white, I'm probably not wanting it. If I'm playing in like a 2 or 3 color deck where I have shocklands or triomes that I want to get, because it does not require you to search for a basic plains card, I might consider playing it on a 4. So in those situations, it's a little better. Mono white, I wouldn't bother. Livio, Oathsworn Knight, 1 and a white legendary creature, human knight. It is a 2/2. You can spend 1 and a white, choose another target creature. Its controller may have it exiled with a divinity counter on it. You can then spend 2 and a white, tap it to return all creatures with a divinity counter on them from exile to the battlefield under their owner's control as partner. I don't think I've ever seen a card that exiles something with a divinity counter. I know there are definitely cards that have divinity counters, or give divinity counters, just not to cards that are exiled. That being said, there's a couple of catches to this card that really require some thought. First thing first, this is going to go into a deck that you are probably going to be wanting to do board wipes a lot, or if you expect your play group to be running board wipes that don't just bounce to hand, they just completely destroy them. The catch to that is you're basically exiling it in preparation for it to be board wiped. And even then, that's a really weird situation, because yeah, you can then bounce them all back regardless, or after recasting it after the board wipe. Doesn't seem so great. I don't know if you want to use this with like ETB triggers. It's good to save it from, spot removal, I suppose, because at that point you're spending 1 and a white and then hopefully bringing them all back at a later point. Or you just like start bouncing all of your stuff and then do a board wipe and then try to return them all with this. It just seems like so much work. I imagine there's some partner out there that's going to want this, but I can't think of one right now. And I really just don't think it's that great a card. It just seems like too much work. Ninth Bridge Patrol, 1 and a white creature, Dwarf Soldier. Again, this is a reprint. Whenever another creature you control leaves the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on Ninth Bridge Patrol. Note that it leaves the battlefield. That is not... it doesn't die. It can either, be exiled, bounced back, bounced to your hand. It doesn't really matter. It still gets bigger. I do like this in token strategies. I do like this in go wide strategies. It's not the greatest card for that, but it's not horrible. Something I think like Brago, it's actually pretty decent because you're going to be bouncing stuff. Revolt decks that are focused on that, I think it's pretty decent. But it's not horrible. For a Kaladesh reprint, I don't know if we really needed it, but there are worse cards out there. It works in some decks, doesn't work in a lot of them. Patron of Valiant, 3 white creature angel, has flying, it's a 4/4, and whenever it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter on it. 4/4 for 5 for flying, not a bad rate. I mean, that's a Sarah Angel without vigilance. Wait, Sarah Angel, I think it's 2 white. Anyway, the putting a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control with a +1/+1 counter, it's kind of proliferate, but not, and it's just not that good. I think this card is too much work for what it does, but if you have a deck that's focused on +1/+1 counters, it's not bad. Prophet of the Steel Legion is 2 and a white. Legendary creature Cat Soldier, 1/4. As long as it's your turn, creature tokens you control get +1/+4. Spend 3 and a white, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token, and it has partner. Remember me mentioning, token decks above and beyond and over and over and over again? This is definitely a decent partner commander for that sort of strategy if you have another partner that works with it. I'm imagining this in some kind of aristocrat style build, or I don't know, I want to say something like that's going to be in a go wide. The +1/+4 is kind of interesting, but it's only on your turn. It's not on your opponent's turn. So the +1/+4 doesn't make a ton of sense unless you're planning on swinging in a lot. If you have like Intangible Virtue, this becomes really good because at that point they have vigilance and you really don't care because, well, your opponent's not going to be able to deal with most of it. So I don't think it's horrible. It's definitely interesting. It is a cat soldier. If you could put some kind of token generation, or at least additional token generation to an Arabo deck, I might like it. I would like it more if it created cat soldiers, but you can't have everything. Promise of Tomorrow, 2 and a white. Enchantment. Whenever a creature you control dies, exile it. At the beginning of each end step, if you control no creatures, sacrifice Promise of Tomorrow. Return all creatures exiled with it to the battlefield under your control. This is outrightly a board wipe counter, for lack of better terms, because even if you're the one that wipes the board, well, cool. At the end of your end step, bring everything back. Get all those ETB triggers. It's going to be a nice thing. This is something that I would play in almost every white deck I could, because if I'm running board wipes, I want to be able to get all my stuff back. That's a great advantage. It's also great against other people's board wipes. So I think this is going to become a staple, realistically. I expect to see this a lot in heavy creature decks. There are obviously some white decks that aren't going to want to use this, but there aren't many. Radiant Seraphic Archangel, 6 and a white, legendary creature angel, flying 6/4, tapping another untapped creature you control, and Radiant Seraphic Archangel gains protection from the color of your choice until end of turn, and then has partner. The lore of this card notwithstanding, which is actually kind of cool, and I may go over some point, it's nice to see it as a card. 7 for a 6/4 flyer that at best gives itself protection from a color. Oh, I don't know. Again, it's going to depend on the partner. I see this going really good with a red partner, or possibly a green partner just to get some nice ramp. I could also see this. I know there's at least a few green-blue creatures that have partner. So at that point, you've got plenty of ramp, plenty of control, and can kind of go with a control build at that point. But that's really kind of stretching it. I really see this with like an all-in attack deck. I don't necessarily see this as a control deck, but I mean, it could be. It's not something I think I would dabble with personally. Raise the Alarm, I mentioned this one earlier. 1 and a white for an instant that creates 2/1/1 soldier tokens. This card has been good. This card is good. This card will always be good. And for a common, it's just amazing. Sometimes you just need 2 dudes on the board, especially as a combat trick for defensive purposes. All else fails, it's going to kill any X2 that doesn't have first strike. So for 2 mana, that's not too bad. And at worst, you know what? You just got 2/1/1 bodies, and that's pretty good too for 2 mana. Rebek, Architect of Ascension is 3 and a white for a 3/4. Artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost amongst artifacts you control with partner, and it's a 3/4. Wow, that's a lot of interesting text to mull over. Again, this is going to be really highly dependent on your other colors. White has some really good artifact builds if you can find a blue card that has partner that also has this, or a red card that has partner that was also kind of artifact dependent. I think it's going to be pretty good in something like that. I could also, let's see, I also see this like an all artifact build with maybe some equipment. Uh, it would require some thought as to how to build this, but it is definitely a build around card. I think this might actually just be good as a straight card without a partner too, but I would really have to figure out the build for it. It's definitely gets the creative juices flowing and is something I probably will end up looking into. Return to Dust. Great card, great reprint, always useful. 2 and double white, instant, exile target artifact or enchantment. If you cast a spell during your main phase, you may exile up to one other target or enchantment. So it's good for getting rid of gods, or at least the Theros ones. It's good for getting rid of a lot of pesky enchantments or artifacts that you just want absolutely gone. And if you can manage to cast it on your turn during your main phase, you get to double up on that. Sometimes that's a really good bargain, even if it isn't. You know what? 2 and 2 white to exile target artifact or enchantment is not a horrible rate, period. Useful in pretty much any deck that can run those colors, and almost auto-include, in my opinion. Seraphic Greatsword. 1 and a white artifact equipment. It is a mythic rare. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. Whenever equipped creature attacks the player with the most life or tied for the most, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking that player. Equip 4. Given that equip cost, I do not think this is an undercosted spell. If it had been 3 and 3, that would have been pretty good too. Maybe actually almost too good. Any deck that has ways of quick equipping things at no cost, this just becomes amazing. SRAM decks, as I mentioned before, are going to like this card. Anything with a token build is going to like this. I do like the fact that it kind of makes you share the pain, as it were, to get the best effect out of it. But sometimes you just want to go after the guy with the lowest life total, and that's not going to be advantageous to you. I think it's good. I think it'll see play. I will probably try to pick up a copy myself, maybe 2. I know at least 2 decks I presently have that will want this, so I will be looking into it, and I think other people will too. Slash Ranks is 3 and a double white for sorcery. Destroy all creatures and planeswalkers except for commanders. I like this card. Depending on the general, this can be a one-sided board wipe. I know this is going to go straight into my Narset deck, and people are going to hate me even more for it, so that's a thing. But I think it's a good, fair card for 5 mana. It's a solid board wipe. It pulls a planeswalker, so that's a thing. There are going to be lots of decks that are going with this. It's a board wipe for 5 that has an upside, especially if they don't have their commander in play yet. So I think it's good. I plan to play it. Vow of Duty, 2 and a white, enchant creature. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and has vigilance and can't attack you or a planeswalker you control. This is part of a cycle. There are 5 of these. I know for a fact all 5 of them are being reprinted in this set. I've always liked this card. Again, I keep going back to SRAM decks, but legitimately, any deck that's going to have a political feel. I like this also in group hug decks. So it's just good. You can always put it on your dude, which I think is actually the least useful concept. Putting it on somebody else's general is amazing. It's a great feeling because at that point it's like, okay, yeah, have fun attacking everybody else. You can sit over there and do your thing. So I kind of like it for that. So that's going to do it for the white cards. We're going to go and do this in WooBug order, as I mentioned before. So I'm probably going to hit the blue cards here a little bit later today. If you happen to enjoy this, please like, share, and subscribe. And thanks for watching. Peace.